The time for the healing of the wounds has come. The moment to bridge the chasms that divide us has come. The time to build is upon us.
I am not a saint, unless you think of a saint as a sinner who keeps on trying. These words, spoken by Nelson Mandela, encapsulate the essence of his journey, not one of perfection, but of persistence, resilience, and relentless courage. Nelson Mandela's legacy goes beyond his role as the first black president of South Africa. It's a legacy born of struggle, sacrifice, and a deep commitment to justice.
There's Mr. Mandela, Mr. Nelson Mandela, a free man taking his first steps into a new South Africa.
From his early defiance against apartheid to his 27 years of imprisonment, Mandela's life represents a fight not just for political freedom, but for the very soul of humanity. Mandela's story is one of transformation, from a young lawyer challenging racial injustice to a global icon of peace and reconciliation. His unwavering belief in the power of forgiveness and unity changed the course of history and inspired millions around the world.
Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished guests, comrades and friends, today all are stirred by our presence here.
Today, Mandela stands as a beacon of hope, not just for South Africa, but for anyone who believes in the power of perseverance, dignity, and the pursuit of justice. His legacy, built through a lifetime of struggle and triumph, continues to shape the world, reminding us that no fight for freedom is ever truly finished. Long before he became a global symbol of resistance and reconciliation, Nelson Mandela was a boy named Ralilala, a Xhosa name meaning troublemaker. He was born on July 18, 1918, in the tiny village of Mvizo in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. Mandela came from noble lineage, a royal branch of the Thembu people. His father, Gadla Henry Mfakaniiswa, was a local chief and advisor to the Thembu king. Though born into tribal royalty, Mandela's life was far from lavish. His early years were shaped by traditional customs, communal living, and a deep respect for leadership and justice, values that would guide him for the rest of his life. But everything changed when Mandela was just 9 years old. His father died, a loss that forced him to leave his home and move to the village of Kunu, where he was adopted by the acting regent of the Thembu people, Chief Janjantaba Dalindibo. In this new environment, young Mandela was exposed to a more privileged upbringing, yet also to the complex dynamics of leadership, tradition, and authority. Education became Mandela's escape and his weapon. He enrolled at the University of Fort Hare, one of the few higher education institutions for black South Africans at the time. It was here that he first tasted resistance. He was expelled for participating in a student protest, foreshadowing a lifetime of defiance in the name of justice. After Fort Hare, Mandela fled an arranged marriage and moved to Johannesburg, where he completed his law degree through correspondence at the University of South Africa. It was in this urban, racially stratified landscape that Mandela's political awareness fully awakened. He witnessed firsthand the brutal inequalities of apartheid, laws designed to strip black South Africans of their rights and dignity. These injustices weren't just distant policies, they were daily realities. It was in the courtrooms, the townships, and the ghettos that Mandela's sense of purpose began to take shape. Mentored by political thinkers like Walter Sisulu and inspired by global liberation movements, Mandela joined the African National Congress in 1944. He co-founded its Youth League, pushing for a more radical approach to achieving racial equality. The seeds of revolution had been planted, and they would soon grow into a movement that would shake the world. From the rolling hills of the Eastern Cape to the legal courts of Johannesburg, Mandela's early life shaped the fighter he would become. His experiences with loss, tradition, injustice, and learning were not just chapters in his story, they were the foundation of a lifelong battle for freedom. In 1948, apartheid became law, a brutal system of institutionalized racial segregation and white supremacy in South Africa. It governed every aspect of life, where you could live, who you could marry, where you could walk, and even what jobs you could hold. Nelson Mandela had already joined the African National Congress, ANC, in 1944, but he wanted to take the struggle further. That same year, he co-founded the ANC Youth League, a more radical branch aimed at mobilizing mass action. To Mandela, this wasn't just politics. It was survival. It was dignity. It was justice. The Youth League spearheaded a new era of resistance. Mandela helped organize strikes, boycotts, and marches. He believed that the system could be dismantled through collective civil disobedience. But the government responded with violence, arrests, and escalating oppression. Then came Sharpeville. In 1960, police opened fire on unarmed protesters, killing 69 black South Africans. The massacre marked a turning point. The ANC was banned. And Mandela's belief in peaceful resistance began to crack. By 1961, Mandela had gone underground. He adopted the name the Black Pimpernel and evaded authorities while secretly organizing sabotage missions. That same year, he co-founded Umkhonto we Sizwe, the Spear of the Nation, the ANC's armed wing. Their mission was clear: to strike the apartheid regime where it hurt, targeting infrastructure and symbols of oppression. Not civilians. Never civilians. Mandela knew the risks. He knew prison, or death, was likely. But he also knew that freedom would never be handed down willingly by those in power. It had to be claimed. In 1963, Mandela was captured. Along with other ANC leaders, he was tried for sabotage during the Rivonia trial, one of the most significant political trials in modern history. It was here, in a dimly lit courtroom in Pretoria, that Mandela spoke the words that would echo across the world, a statement not of defense, but of conviction.
I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the idea of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die.
In 1964, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. For many, this was the end of his story. But in truth, it was only the beginning of a legacy that would inspire the world. On June 12, 1964, Nelson Mandela was sentenced to life in prison. His new address, Robben Island, a barren outcrop just off the coast of Cape Town, infamous for its harsh conditions and political prisoners. For the next 18 years, this island would be both his cage and his crucible. Mandela was locked in a 7 by 9 foot cell. No bed. No plumbing. He broke rocks by day in a limestone quarry under the searing sun, and endured nights in freezing cold. Letters were heavily censored, and visits from loved ones were rare and brief. Yet, within those prison walls, something remarkable happened. Mandela became not just a prisoner, but a teacher, a strategist, and a symbol. He and his fellow inmates turned Robben Island into an unofficial university. They studied, debated, and passed knowledge from cell to cell. Denied a voice in public, Mandela used his pen. His letters, smuggled out to family, the ANC, and activists, became blueprints for patience, dignity, and resistance. Even as the apartheid government tried to silence him, his words carried power. Outside the prison, the world was watching. What began as a local struggle had become a global cause. From student campuses to world parliaments, millions demanded one thing: free Nelson Mandela. He was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. His image was banned in South Africa, but his name was spoken across the world. For the oppressed, he became hope. For the powerful, he became a warning that injustice could not last forever. In 1982, Mandela was transferred to Pollsmoor Prison, then later to Victor Verster Prison in 1988. With each move, restrictions eased. The world's pressure had begun to crack the apartheid government. Secret negotiations began. The system was shaking, and Mandela's calm, resolute leadership became even more vital. He entered prison as a young revolutionary. He emerged as the future of South Africa. But the full story of his impact, and the moment that changed a nation, was still to come. February 11, 1990, after 27 years behind bars, Nelson Mandela walked free. The world watched as a man, once labeled a terrorist, emerged not with vengeance, but with vision. His release signaled the beginning of a new chapter, not just for him, but for South Africa.
Hand in hand,
South Africa was on the brink, torn between hope and chaos. Decades of institutional racism had left deep wounds. But Mandela chose not to retaliate. He chose to reconcile. To build, not burn. Together with President F.W. de Klerk, Mandela worked to dismantle the apartheid regime. The two men, once on opposite sides of history, sat at the same table, negotiating a path toward democracy. It was a fragile process. There were setbacks. Violence erupted. But Mandela held the line, urging peace over revenge. On April 27, 1994, South Africans of all races voted for the first time in a democratic election. Over 22 million people cast their ballots, many of them experiencing freedom for the very first time. When the results were announced, the message was clear. Nelson Mandela had been elected the first black president of South Africa. It was a victory not just for one man, but for a people, long silenced, now finally heard.
I, Nelson Mandela, do hereby swear to be faithful to the Republic of South Africa.
His inauguration on May 10, 1994, was a moment the world will never forget. In front of global dignitaries, former enemies, and millions of hopeful South Africans, Mandela spoke not of triumph, but of unity.
People, we enter into a covenant that we shall build a society in which all South Africans, both black and white, will be able to walk tall, without any fear in their hearts, assured of their inalienable right to human dignity. A rainbow nation, at peace with itself and the world.
His presidency was not without its challenges. Economic disparity, crime, and inequality remained. But Mandela laid the foundation. He championed education, reconciliation, and human rights. Most importantly, he reminded a wounded nation that forgiveness could be a powerful tool for justice. One of his boldest initiatives was the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, led by Archbishop Desmond Tutu. It was not about erasing the past, but facing it, openly and honestly. Victims shared their stories. Perpetrators confessed. And the country began to heal. When Mandela stepped down in 1999, he did so not clinging to power, but passing the torch, a rare act on a continent plagued by political longevity. He had delivered South Africa's first peaceful transfer of power, not with guns, but with grace. In the years after his presidency, Nelson Mandela became more than a national hero, he became a global symbol of dignity, perseverance, and moral courage. Though his official role had ended, his influence had only just begun. Mandela used his global platform to champion causes close to his heart: education, human rights, and public health. He launched the Nelson Mandela Foundation, dedicated to promoting freedom, equality, and social justice, not just in South Africa, but around the world. He believed in the power of dialogue, in the necessity of compassion, and in the importance of raising the next generation to be better than the last. His voice echoed not only in parliaments, but in schools, grassroots movements, and homes across continents. Through the Mandela Rhodes Foundation, he empowered young African leaders with scholarships, mentorship, and the responsibility to shape a new future for their nations. He knew that lasting change came not from one man, but from a movement. When he passed away in 2013, the world mourned, but also celebrated a life that changed the course of history. Mandela didn't just belong to South Africa. He belonged to the world. A beacon of hope in a time of division. A reminder that courage and humility can coexist. Today, his legacy lives on in the streets of Ferguson, in the protests of Hong Kong, in the voices calling for justice across the globe. Mandela taught us that even the most broken systems can be changed, with conviction, and a willingness to forgive. Nelson Mandela, a name etched in history. A life lived in service. A legacy that still moves the world. This was more than politics. It was purpose. This was the man behind the name. Join us in remembering the life and legacy of Nelson Mandela, and continue the work he began. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe the channel.